Fresh meat.
I'm Andrew Hatfield for Arrow in the Head's The Black Sheep, where we discuss and defend the genre's most divisive films. Now, whoa, wait. Before you get mad at the comments or leave altogether, I'm not taking over for Lance. I prefer his velvet voice to my own too, but stuff happens. People disappear sometimes. Debts need to be paid. Anyway, today's episode focuses on one of the lesser-viewed horror franchises. Everyone knows exactly how many Nightmare on Elm Street movies we got, how many Child's Play, how many Friday the 13th, Halloween, even with its crazy number of timelines. But do you know how many Children of the Corn we got? 11. Leprechaun films? 8. How about Hellraiser? 10. That last one is today's focus as we dive into the 8th film in the Hellraiser franchise, Hellraiser Hellworld. Now, Hellraiser can be separated into several sections. The objectively good ones are the first two, and those two are really the only ones that are connected in any tangible way, short of the Pinhead character. The next two are the flawed but fun movies. Hellraiser 3 and 4 are a huge step down in quality from the first two films, sure, and they also suffer from what could have been syndrome, but they feel mostly like Hellraiser films. Then it becomes a throw everything you can at it approach. The fifth one was Scott Derrickson's first horror film before moving on to the likes of Sinister and the first Doctor Strange, while also starting the trend of movies that may or may not be originally intended to be Hellraiser films. Sure, Sony had to make a Spider-Man film every so often to keep their license alive, but at least those were fully fleshed out Spidey films. Two of the next four Hellraiser movies, and honestly, maybe not even today's selection, were originally supposed to be in the franchise. They just paid poor Doug Bradley to come in and do some tie-in scenes to make it make sense. After Derrickson, we got the Rick Boda trilogy. No, that's not some character that has to fight off Pinhead and the other Cenobites in these three films, that's the director's name. None of these films are related in any way other than having Pinhead show up and having Hellraiser in the title. The first two suffer from the holy sin of being kind of boring, even though Hellseeker sees the return of Ashley Lawrence as the series' first protagonist, Kirsty. Rick Boda, for his part, certainly isn't a bad guy. His resume includes being the cinematographer on Demon Knight and the director of photography on 20 Tales from the Crypt episodes, Barbed Wire, and even the remake of House on Haunted Hill. That's a fun mix of cheese and trash, if you ask me. Look, I know it seems like we're stalling here, but no more than some of these movies stall on introducing Pinhead to justify the Hellraiser title, so why Hellworld? What makes it stand out from the rest of the entries after 4, let alone stand out in the Boda trilogy? Hellworld opens up with a credit scene overlaying a character named Adam, who looks like he's going through a tough time. It shifts to his funeral, where we find out that Adam and his friends were obsessed with a game based on the Hellraiser series of films. Not just a game, but an MMORPG? First off, way to get meta on us, Hellworld. Seeing Pinhead on a computer game and hearing quotes from the first two movies is a kind of a weird trip. While the choice for an online multiplayer game may seem an odd choice for 2005, where the genre is still somewhat niche, it could really fit in today. Adam became so obsessed with the game that he allegedly killed himself, and his close circle of friends feel guilty. Although, obviously not guilty enough to stop playing the game. 2 years pass and the group gets exclusive invites to a private party hosted by the host. The cast is as weird as it is fun, with the production lucking out by getting Lance Henriksen and Carrie Payton by chance as they were both finishing up films in Romania at the time. You all know our guy Lance by name, face, and voice. He's a bona fide Hall of Famer.
Yes, it's made out of human skin. There's no texture quite like it.
Wow.
He's fought a Terminator, he's helped out a Pumpkinhead, he's fought man's best friend, he's done it all. Payton, however, is much more famous for his voiceover roles in video games and cartoons, like being Cyborg in the various Teen Titan shows, with his most famous live-action character being a 33-episode and counting arc as King Ezekiel on The Walking Dead, also known as the Dude with the Tiger. The biggest casting, in retrospect at least, is the Superman Witcher himself, Henry Cavill. Everyone knows some of the world's biggest actors started in horror, like Johnny Depp or Tom Hanks, but it typically helps if the film has been, seen before. While Cavill had done a couple smaller roles before, this definitely stands out as a strange one compared to his other work, while also being miles away from spy work with Tom Cruise he'd do later on. If I had to guess, he's okay with it being a little scene film. What's even crazier about that is that he was a finalist for the Bond role the same year as this that ultimately went to Daniel Craig. I guess I'd drown my sorrows in a straight-to-DVD Hellraiser sequel too at that point. Most of Adam's friends are gung-ho about the party, with only Chelsea and Jake feeling hesitation, but ultimately going. When the 5 friends arrive, they are given phones by their host, and the party turns out to be a bizarro version of Eyes Wide Shut, with the patrons all given masks with phone numbers etched in the top to go along with their then top-of-the-line Nokia Indestructibles. The host gives the friends a tour of the house and shows off what is said to be the biggest collection of Hellraiser memorabilia in the world.
Did you see this? Mr. Lamarchand himself!
What then gets a tad confusing is that the host explains that the house was built by the same man that built the Lament configuration, and the house was at one point an asylum, because of course it was. Most of the friends have a drink, and then they go about the party to mingle and enjoy what I guess would be classified as a Hellraiser orgy. Hey man, no kink shame here. This is where the film deviates towards traditional slasher fare, and where I think it makes its biggest mistake. Pinhead is not, nor should he ever be, a slasher villain. But here he stalks 3 of the friends in the house like he should be wearing a hockey mask and switch to a POV camera. It's a tough slight because the kills are gory and fun, if not a bit derivative of the recently launched Saw franchise. I haven't even mentioned the names of the 3 characters that die first because, well, they're the most generic shells of a trope you can find in a 2005 horror film. The silver lining here is that they have no backstory and are objectively crappy people, so instead of grieving for them, you kinda root for their gory demise. Chelsea gets locked upstairs and phones the police. When the cops arrive, they are greeted by Lance. I love to watch him in almost everything he's been in, but he's clearly disinterested in the movie, and by his dialogue, so is his character.
Hey there. Sorry to bother you at this hour.
It's all right. I think.
He uses some sort of illusion to obscure Chelsea from the police's view, and they chalk it up to a drunk at a party and declare everything fine. Chelsea and Jake eventually discover that the host is Adam's father, and that he must have lured them all out to seek revenge as he blames them for Adam's death. When the pair try to escape, they find out the movie's twist, and it kinda works, if you don't think about it too hard. They were in the party only briefly when Adam's dad gave them all a huge dose of a drug that put them in some sort of waking nightmare. He then buried them all alive in coffins with phones so he could give them subliminal messages. One of my absolute favorite parts is that the rest of the party was real and actually continued through the night.
I figured, why not? Why not enjoy myself?
Hendrickson just went and enjoyed the rest of his time. Go get it, my dude. The way the victims actually died was because one accidentally cut her own throat, one couldn't get to his inhaler, and one died of sheer fright. I think the filmmakers realized there was only so many ways they could off a character in a coffin buried alive, especially when said character was given enough oxygen to live. All of the Cenobite attacks and the Hellraiser imagery were only brought on by their fandom. Obviously the movie wasn't built with it in mind, but this is a great commentary on toxic fandoms. You know who you are. Just as Chelsea is about to be overcome by one of her visions, the cops pull her and Jake out of the ground. The police explain that they traced her call and eventually found the tubes outside. When she looks up towards the house, she sees the spectral form of Adam and realizes he was with them all along. This movie has everything. Chelsea and Jake drive off in the sunrise, planning their next stop, apparently unfazed by the very real deaths of their friends. I guess they knew they were assholes too. And we find Adam's dad alone in a safe location. As he goes through some of his son's things, we get the famous box that we only previously saw in flashbacks with Adam. The Cenobites come in and Pinhead chastises Hendrickson for not believing before cutting him into a CGI mess.
This is not happening. Seeing is believing. I should have come for you a long time ago.
The twist on top of the twist is that Hellraiser and the Cenobites are real, and you don't want to piss them off. The movie franchise exists, but it's also based in reality, and now my nose is bleeding. Is Hellraiser Hellworld good? No. Is it a good Hellraiser movie? Also no. Is it an early 2000s straight-to-DVD curio that is worth a look simply for how batshit crazy it is? Absolutely. It has the novelty of being one of the first appearances of Henry Cavill, the pain of being the final appearance of Doug Bradley as Pinhead, and throws just about every possible situation and idea you could think of to fill 93 minutes. Don't watch it because it's good. Watch it because it's dumb and fun, and way more entertaining than it has any right to be. Finally, watch it because, to date, it's the final watchable Hellraiser movie. That's gotta count for something.
You didn't even go to his fucking funeral! That kid took 16 years of loneliness to his grave, and now you want to come back and get revenge on us? We were the only family Adam ever had.
You still think you have a fighting chance, don't you, Jake?
Thank you for watching our show. If you like what you see, please subscribe to our JoBlo Horror Videos channel. Tell your friends who like this sort of content and turn on the bell to receive notifications for all our latest videos. We're an independent company and we appreciate all your support.